I'm Sharifa J, your co-host, and I am joined today by...
Erin Dussard. So welcome to another episode of SWEAT.POD. So today we're talking about all things food, how it affects your mood, and we are joined today by Charlene Campbell and Phoebe Aurelia. Yes. So Charlene, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Charlene, I'm a producer. I'm also a vegan of 29 years. I have a little community on Instagram called Love Vegan UK, just sort of showcasing recipes, things that I create myself.
Oh, wow.
I kind of call myself more plant-based than vegan,
Okay.
but you know, we can go into that a bit
Yeah,
later.
because I don't know the difference. And Phoebe?
I am a DJ and radio presenter, and I also manage a community radio station. We do like workshops for kids and stuff like that. It's really cool. And I have been on and off vegan since I was about 18, so about 6 years now. But I would say more plant-based as well. Yeah.
Okay, so as you've both brought it up, what is veganism?
Yeah. What is it? And what is an on and off vegan?
Oh, no, I'm on and off. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Is it like a flexitarian? I had a good flexitarian phase in 2019.
It's like Monday, no. Like, I didn't want to say, like, because I originally went vegan when I was about 17.
Oh, wow.
And I did it straight until I was maybe about 3 years, and I was, like, super dedicated. Like, I went on the full, I was so immersed in it. Like, I would say that at that point I was, like, the kind of fully vegan. Like,
Vegan extremist.
I was like... baking soda as toothpaste and like, you know, coconut oil everywhere, and you know, it was just, and
Honey as bee slavery.
Yeah, no, I was like, no, but like, I was so like committed, and like the idea of anyone wearing anything animal, I was just like, I hate you.
Wow.
But like, but I've calmed down now.
She enters a vegan podcast where I sat away like a cow. And this sofa, well, we're not doing well.
No.
Oh, gosh.
I just want to clarify that I'm not a vegan, but I was a vegan for 1 year. So I'm not pro or against veganism. I do like this jacket. I do like this jacket. And I can't get rid of it now because that would be a waste, wouldn't it? So yeah.
So when you say you're on and off, do you like just do it for a period of time, or?
Well, I don't want to claim that I've always been vegan, because I did about 3 years from when I was about 17 to when I was 20, and that's when I was in my dedicated phase. Then I started getting a little bit, I don't want to say weak, because that's just so everyone says that, so I don't want to say that, but for me, I know that I have sometimes I fall into a bad habit of restricting what I eat, and for veganism, that's like not ideal, because obviously being vegan, you can be perfectly healthy. I see people thrive off it and they are fully plant-based, but for me, I knew I was falling into a bit of a restrictive pattern with my eating, so I started to get very, very thin, and that's got nothing to do with being plant-based. I think that's just for me. So I started to introduce, I still don't have dairy, I've never had dairy, but I started to introduce fish back into my diet, maybe when I was about 20, so about 4 years ago. And from then, I would say I've stuck to being like, I don't have any dairy, I don't have eggs, milk, or anything like that, but I do have fish once in a while.
Why did you choose fish? Sorry.
It seemed like most people who are vegan for like animal reasons would be like, well, how can you do that? Because obviously any animal, whether it's a chicken or a lamb or a fish, it all, has a nervous system. So they would, say that that is not right. But for me, fish felt like a medium into there. So I still feel guilty. It sounds silly, but I still feel guilty about eating fish. But it just to me seems maybe less than eating chickens, beef and stuff like that. And maybe with the fish that I do get, I try and get it like nicely farmed. I try to go to places where it's a little bit more, not acceptable, but where my conscience isn't like, you're a murderer.
So I think it's like we're mammals and fish are not. So it's almost like we are less connected to them almost.
And it
in
does
a way.
feel
I don't know.
that.
Yeah,
It's like,
it does feel
like
that.
a chicken, I feel like I could,
Yeah.
But the fish is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't look into a fish's eyes and be like, you have feelings. You know, I know what you've been thinking today. You know, but whereas a cow, like, I've stroked a cow before. They're so nice.
Yeah, and they're so intelligent as well.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't do beef. Like, I think even if something happened and I all of a sudden went back to eating meat, I think definitely for me, beef is one. They're so intelligent. Cows, they play with, like, if you give them a ball, they'll play with a ball, and like they're very maternal in the sense of if you take their baby away, they obviously mourn just the same as any other like mammal mother would. So yeah, for me, cows.
It's really interesting, like the in our society, what we've grown up seeing, like, you know, like little shows where we, like Lassie and like things where we love, where animals have, or animals talk, like Alvin and the Chipmunks, or, and they talk, and it's so weird that we have this idea that they're like us, they're like humans, but then we also, it's so widely accepted in our society that we just eat them. I saw this article about this squirrel that was smelling flowers the other day. Did anyone see
yeah, I did see that picture.
And it was so cute. And it was like it was a squirrel, like, genuinely walks up to this flower and just goes. And the photographer captured the right moment where the squirrel just smelled the flower, and it actually put me off eating meat for like the whole day. I was like, oh, but the squirrel. And then I was thinking when I was having it,
See, I'm
like,
different, because if that's seasoned right, then...
Oh, God.
Sorry.
That's so bad.
what flavour is it?
So, Charlene, you've been vegan for a lot longer.
Yeah.
What's your story? How did you get into it? Like, why?
So I stopped eating meat when I was 11, so I wasn't fully vegan when I was 11.
Yeah. Was
So
that because
I don't want to give
vegan
away my
existed?
age. well, I didn't really know what it was. I just knew that for a long time I'd be eating meat, and I just started to understand that, to me, this just didn't feel right.
Okay.
And I think there's a stage where you realise that these are animals.
Okay.
And as much as I'm not like I don't have animals at home and things, but I still understand that, again, as, you were saying about the squirrel and the chicken, they do have feelings. But there was just something in me that was just like, you know what, I can't do this.
Okay.
I remember watching a documentary, must have been sometime in the 80s, about, animals and the way they were being treated, and that was kind of the deal breaker for me. And I was like, you know what, Mum, I've decided, I've made a big life decision. I'm not eating meat anymore at 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And I actually just haven't gone back. Although I did find out that my mum was hiding meat in my food. And, being a Jamaican mother, they assume you're going to die if you don't eat meat. So I found out that she was like, I think I remember eating like some vegetables and rice and then finding mince at the bottom. and I think she thought I was just going to eat it and never realised. But yeah, and then as the years went on, sorry, I should backtrack. When I was 6 weeks old, I was diagnosed with quite severe eczema. And it was quite extreme, just all over my body. I would have what you would call like eczema attacks, essentially. So one of the things that the doctor found that was triggering that was dairy. So even in that sense, I wasn't much of a dairy lover. I'd also have like pretty negative reactions to it. So for me, transitioning over to veganism was pretty easy because I already wasn't having dairy. And when I did completely stop dairy, the eczema just seemed to clear up.
So that's really interesting. So having that direct link and seeing how your body was affected by having these foods, is that what kind of shaped your lifestyle pattern and your diet from there on?
I would definitely say, because if you're a child who, other kids can be pretty cool, so you're a child, you've got eczema, some kids are not very understanding, you've got this really bad skin condition, and then I remember just thinking to myself, well, what can I do? Because I was quite a practical child, so I was like, well, what can I do to change this? I'm going to change my diet. and it was just something I was really interested in. Obviously, like I said, my preference just wasn't meat. And then I just kind of found that, also the dairy's an issue. So then I think pretty much early on I realised that the diet and the gut have a big connection to just everything that's happening in the body. So then I just kind of gave it all up.
I mean, you learned that at 11. And I think some people still don't understand it in their 50s. And still probably will never, or maybe don't believe in the power of like food on your mood. I think that, and obviously that's something that we really want to talk about today. Do you think that what do you think the link between your diet is with your mood? Do you find that there's certain foods that you eat that give you a positive for your mood? What do you think?
So 100%. So in 2018, I gave up sugar. And the reason I did that, I was having just odd symptoms. I was having panic attacks. Anxiety is something that I'd always kind of dealt with since I was pretty young. But I just kind of, again, said, OK, well, what's affecting me?
Did you say that at 11?
No. No. I like the sugar at 11.
Everyone in London is listening.
No.
Like at 11, Charlene was changing the world.
That's it. No more sweets.
At a birthday party. Like, excuse me, can I have a salad, please? Side salad and a tap water.
Yeah, well, could you imagine? Oh, gosh. So one of the things I sort of noticed was, OK, when you're feeling down, you're eating a lot of sugar. And then that was sort of making me feel better. And then, family members had said to me, oh, you're eating quite a bit of sugar. And I was like, no, I'm not. I haven't got a problem. I'm kind of itching. I ain't got a problem. And then I was like, oh, actually, after a few more incidents happened, I was like, actually, something is wrong. It's definitely my diet. And where I'd always been pretty clued up on diet, I was like, OK, I need to do something about this. So I started to cut back on sugar, had really terrible withdrawal symptoms. This is in 2018. Literally
Sorry to
everything.
cut you. When you say sugar, do you mean just simple sugars or do you mean fruit as well?
Oh, OK. So what I did initially was I gave up any refined sugars.
OK. Yeah.
So that's any, the things that I was enjoying the most, like vegan biscuits, vegan cakes, vegan donuts, vegan ice cream, vegan anything. So I should also point out that obviously growing up as a vegan, I didn't have the same things as everyone else, like the birthday cakes and all these types of things. So when I discovered that I could, I just went hard.
Crazy,
And when I say hard, I mean an extra 3 stone, 4 stone, and I just wasn't bothered. I was just like, you know what? I just want to enjoy my life.
It's available now.
I just want to eat.
Yeah.
Really didn't bother me. I just wanted to, just be happy. But then it got to a point where it was actually affecting my mood, because if you're pretty much trying to eat clean on one hand, but then eating a load of sort of refined sugars, I was having a lot of things like sweet chili sauce just on a normal meal, drinking elderflower, which I thought was just the healthiest sparkling drink I could ever have. It's so nice. I discovered it when I was 14, and I felt really posh, like I have an elderflower every single night, like a glass of sparkling elderflower. Then I read the ingredients and realised the first ingredient is sugar. Then fructose, then maybe a few elderflower leaves for taste. So it was I just started to become a bit conscious of it, but also, like I said, I was having these anxiety attacks on a regular basis. So I went back to the drawing board. So what I did initially, which I wouldn't recommend for everyone out there, I didn't have any sort of white food, so no white rice, no white pasta, anything that I felt could turn into sugar. So I didn't even have anything like agave, maple syrup. These are things that I introduced maybe 6 months after giving up sugar. So I had really bad withdrawal symptoms. It was anything from...
When you say really bad, like...
Talk to us about that. I don't really want to relive it, but as soon as you want to discuss it. It started out as tremors.
Wow.
So body tremors, night terrors, literally nightmares, pretty much hallucinations at some stage. And bear in mind, I didn't realise that this was the sugar, so I was just thinking, oh, you're going mad. I was just
how soon did that set in?
Within the first 3 days.
Wow.
Literally within the first 3 days. So I remember I went out to an event and I was like, guys, I need to go to the shop. So I went and got an appetiser, drank it quickly, and then my body just relaxed back to normal. So then I was like, this is definitely the sugar.
Sugar is a drug.
It's
like a drug. They say it's more addictive than heroin.
Well, this is the thing, and I didn't know that. So through my research, which I'm someone who would research first, I decided, OK, let me research and see what is actually happening to my body. And like you said, it releases, is it the chemical dopamine? And if you just cut that cold turkey, it's the same effect, if not worse, than giving up drugs. So what I was going through was literally this weird detox. I had things like, I don't know if you guys know what Candida die-off is. It's like cut, no joking. It's going to the bowel movements, but almost pretty extreme. So essentially, in your gut, when you're sort of like addicted to sugar, it's thriving off of like yeast and fungus that's in your stomach. So when you cut that completely, it starts to come out. But also what it does is if you're not taking things like probiotics, which are things like sauerkraut, even olives, it then starts to release toxins in your body. And I hadn't researched this. So I was then experiencing all of these negative symptoms because these toxins were being released into my blood.
So you say we need to have fermented foods, right? Like sauerkraut. And that counteracts sugar?
Well, no. So that will help to balance your gut against the yeast and all the sort of fungus and parasites that are in the stomach. But again, that's another conversation.
So do you think it's important to have like a probiotic or something like that daily?
100%. Because in terms of mood and the food that we eat, there are loads of like neurotransmitters that sort of signal from our gut to our brain.
I need to get my notepad.
So bearing in mind, anything you eat releases chemicals. So if these chemicals that are released aren't great, they're going to affect your brain and your mood and the way you feel. So that's why it's important to eat a very healthy, balanced diet. So going back to the initial question, which was about plant-based and veganism, you can have a vegan diet, which essentially is anything that's, as Phoebe will know, you can have like anything vegan.
It's so good. It's
Party rings are vegan.
Yes, exactly. Oreos,
barbecue Pringles are vegan.
But this isn't. But these foods aren't necessarily healthy for you. So essentially, I realised I didn't know there were different categories of veganism, which I should have known. I think I've been in it so deep, so long. But you can have plant-based and you can have vegan. So our diets are more plant-based because we focus on things that are grown from the ground as opposed to things that are processed.
Which probably is how we should eat.
Exactly.
How we're supposed to eat, but obviously with technology and everything, we now have all these fabulous cakes and little packets.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've done periods of veganism. I've done it for Lent last year and I'm doing it for this year as well.
Oh, nice.
And I tried, last year I had a lot of like the processed meat replacements, those kind of things. And, you know, it's processed food, so it's not actually healthy for you. So is the difference between veganism and plant-based is that plant-based is a little bit more healthy?
Yeah, it's kind of, veganism obviously is normally like you're dedicating your whole life to it. So it would be the whole no leather, you're not going to wear makeup that's, you know, not cruelty-free, honey wouldn't be allowed, anything, like wines as well, certain wines and beers, you know, they use animal products to process it and stuff to make it. So being vegan is more like a whole commitment. And you wouldn't have things like, really, you wouldn't have things like Oreos, for example. They are classed as vegan because they've not got animal products in it, but the whole kind of way of making Oreos, there's probably exploitation going on. It's, you know, for a big corporation. As well, sugar as well wouldn't, processed sugar wouldn't be classed as vegan because it's something to do with they grind bones in the whitening of white sugar.
They do, yeah.
So the idea of like, so really like the idea of like party rings, which like, oh, I just love party rings, like, but they wouldn't be classed as vegan because of the sugar.
They do say vegan on the packet though.
Yeah, well, you know, it's really, but plant-based for me is more the idea that it's more of a dietary thing. When I hear someone say plant-based, obviously I can understand that they, you know, there's still care for animals, there's still care for the environment, but for me, I understand that when someone says plant-based, it is more about what there's more of a health-conscious reason for it. Because a lot of people, like Charlene said, you can be vegan and you can love animals, and that's why you're doing it, and you can eat vegan donuts, vegan cupcakes for the rest of your life, and that's fine. But when someone says plant-based, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you care about animals and the environment as well, but I know for a fact that there's probably some health-conscious reason for, like, choosing it.
So I'm not actually familiar with the terminology. So, like, if somebody says plant-based, could you still eat meat alongside that, but also eat... So if you said you're plant-based, you just assume that person doesn't eat meat at all?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but however, they might possibly wear leather shoes.
Right.
Plant-based is just the diet.
Food.
Okay.
So I might be wearing makeup that's not cruelty-free and wearing leather shoes, and you can still be plant-based. However, if you said vegan, you'd expect someone not to be wearing leather, not to be wearing, you know, wool, things like that. So.
Do you find that recently, in the last maybe couple of years, I've noticed veganism becoming a lot more trendy, a lot more available in shops like Pret now.
Yeah.
You go into Pret and there's like there's veggie Pret, like a whole Pret just for veggies. There's like vegan restaurants like Mildred's in Soho who are, you know, really like everyone's like hipsters in there, like everyone's woke. People come in with like bags of quinoa on their shoulders. You know, it's like it's now almost like cool to be vegan, right? Yeah. Whereas I remember, and probably back when you were first being a vegan, I can imagine, especially like being in the Black community, people being like, "You're a vegan, you're gonna die."
Yeah,
you know?
basically. Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, you're vegan, you're so woke, you're so cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a reason that people are becoming more vegan, or you think it's more to do with the environment? Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in the media about the environment and what's good for us, and you know, what do you think is the reason for all these kind of changes? Is it a fad? Is it a new way of thinking?
I don't think it's a fad. I think it can be. It depends on the way you're looking at it. I find that people who just jump on the kind of vegan train because it's like cool, I feel like give them 6 months and there are probably people who will fall off it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's everyone's choice what they eat, but I feel like if you are someone who kind of really believes in health, or whether it is like you really want to help the environment, there's like a real back kind of research that you've done towards it. I feel like that puts you on a path where you understand what you're putting in your body, you're understanding what it's doing to the world, you're more likely to stay vegan. But I think for me, I'm really happy with people. I feel when people hear like that you're plant-based or you're vegan, people get their backs up straight away. Honestly, it's like, I've never known people to be so interested in people's diet and get so aggressive with it so quickly. And it's something that I've just never understood, because if you turn around to me and said, "Oh, I eat squirrels," I'd be a bit like, okay, but I'm not gonna scream at you across the table about it, you know. Sorry.
I have no idea how connected I am to that.
Like I'll just leave you to it. I'd be like, "Oh, that's a bit strange, but okay," you know. But with anyone who has, even like, if anyone's overheard me ever say, "Oh, I'm plant-based," or "Oh, you know, I have, you know, mainly vegan diet," the way people go at you, they might not know you, but all of a sudden it's just like, well, you know, and they just get so worked up.
True.
And it's always baffled me that people are so involved in what I eat. And you can say to someone like,
I agree.
And people are so aggressive. And I have a theory that I do think it is a guilt thing, because I feel like I feel like if we were all fully aware and it was all fully available to us that, you know, we wouldn't need to eat meat, wouldn't need to eat dairy, I feel like people would do it. And I think as soon as you kind of, as a vegan or as someone who's plant-based, you kind of show this pinnacle of a person of, I'm trying my best. I might not be perfect, but I'm trying my best for my health, for the environment, for animals, and I'm doing my part. Yeah. And to someone who maybe isn't doing that and they just buy whatever because they eat whatever, there's this guilt thing that I think goes on, and I think that's the only reason why I can think they have such an aggressive reaction to finding out that, oh, I eat some plants and that's all I eat, and all of a sudden they just want to like kill you for it, and it's a weird mentality.
I mean, from my world, in the fitness world, I mean, a lot of the talk is about the protein, and that there's not enough protein in a vegan diet to be able to build muscle, and the lack of B12. I always hear this B12, and then people are saying, well, if you have to take a supplement for it, then that means that it's not really, you know, a well-rounded diet. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts in terms of protein, there are a lot of myths surrounding the vegan diet. And one of the biggest one is definitely protein. Yeah. You know, I'm a strong believer that anything that is provided for us, that is, you know, grown out of the ground, it's there for a reason. Yeah. So one of the biggest sources of protein is quinoa, or quinoa. So I think everyone pronounces it different. I pronounce it the right way, quinoa.
I've had to go on Google before and ask it to pronounce it. And the lady's like, quinoa.
Exactly. But, you know, there are so many different sources of protein. So there's anything from, again, quinoa to chia seeds. Hemp is like one of the biggest sources of protein for vegans. So, you know, again, there are loads of myths that surround veganism.
Yeah. And I think...
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, with B12, I'll tag team. B12, with that, it's funny, where we get B12 is actually from the soil. So when you are someone who eats meat, you are getting your B12, you don't eat soil, so like you're getting it through an animal. So the only reason that you will have B12 in your body is because the cow's eating the grass and the soil and it's got into them. So you're getting it through like a second party kind of situation. So it's funny that reaction that people are like, oh, you know, you're not getting it properly because you have to take a supplement. But it's like, yeah, but people who eat meat, like you're getting it through someone else who's chewed it up for you to then you put it in your body. Like it's again, it's just different ways. Like the only thing I think that you can probably miss is the B12, which obviously is easily solved by supplements or nutritional yeast, which isn't even a supplement. That's just simply like, kind of, don't you call it like a seasoning, I guess, that you can add into any dish and you will get the exact same kind of amount of B12 as normal that you would need for your body.
And also there's people that don't have vegan diets that still don't eat the variety of food that they need. So they're probably not necessarily as, you know, clued up about their nutrition as well. I just want to go back to what you said earlier about kind of an experience that you had with your eating and restricting your food and anxiety. And I wanted to ask more about anxiety. Do you find that foods that you've been eating within your vegan diet have helped you with your anxiety?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like being more plant-based, you're definitely paying more attention to what you're putting into your body. So that definitely helped for me because I as well suffered with really bad anxiety, depression as well. And obviously, you know, like your diet can't completely solve everything. But I did find that as long as I was like nurturing my body and putting goodness into my body, that really, really helped. And as well, being plant-based and being really kind of like aware of my health, I tried to make sure that anxiety and like panic attacks can really be triggered by obviously drops in sugar, which obviously if you're eating a lot of processed food and dairy as well, those drops are very significant. So you're more likely to feel anxious all the time, and that's a cycle that triggers more panic attacks. So being more aware of what I'm eating, being more like plant-based, that really helped to kind of like give it a little bit more like this. And I've really found that it helped, especially with like low mood as well. I know it might be a placebo even, but for me, knowing that I'm putting kind of goodness into my body and I know what I'm eating, I know I'm taking care of myself. For anyone who is kind of maybe, you know, gone through depression before, nurturing yourself is one of the best ways to kind of get yourself out of that low dip. So like feeding myself goodness like really helped. It made me feel like I had my life together. I was like, I've had healthy porridge this morning with some banana. You know what I mean? And it made me feel, so even like those little things just kind of helped my mood and anxiety in general.
I think it's hard for people to always make the right choices when they're in a low place though, because you might be feeling down, and if you're a comfort eater like me, I have always been a comfort eater. The first thing I want to reach for is a chocolate bar or a bag of crisps or something that's going to cheer me up. But I have always found it's been a perpetuating cycle. Then I'll have a stomachache, then I'll have a headache, and it just goes round and round and round. But changing that habit from the inside, I think, is something that I don't know that many people have cottoned on to yet.
Yeah, it's not something that's publicised.
No, it's not publicised. It's not in... we were saying earlier, like in magazines, it's like, this trendy purple cabbage, like, try this. But nobody ever says, just eat a moderate... You know, it doesn't have to be expensive. Eat a good, nourishing, moderate diet and have a healthy, active lifestyle. And, you know, it's always radical. I think it always has to be very radical. And I think that's the thing with vegan. I think when you were saying earlier about how people attack vegans, I think that's because there are some vegans who are quite radical. The ones that like stand in the streets with the TV screens and they're like, look at what you're doing. You know, and I think, and I'm going to be honest, I think once I walked past them in Sydney in Australia, because they're all over the world, you know, the radical vegans. And I think I walked past one and I went to my friend, oh, it's the vegans. And, you know, and the thing is, I accept anybody for their choices, but I think it's the way in which they put across. And I think when anybody pushes their ideas so strongly, I think a lot of, like in anything, in religions, in, you know, fitness professionals, there's always a few that kind of ruin it for everybody else. And, you know, you think, oh, the vegans are going to give me a lecture about my leather jacket. And I think that a lot of people have had experiences, and vice versa, you know, the radical carnivores. I think it's that, but it doesn't have to be a divide. I think everybody can have their own way of eating, and that's also what works for you. I
definitely feel like a couple of years ago when I initially like went vegan, I found, though, that it was that YouTube was quite a bad space for veganism because at the same time, it was an amazing space. People were sharing recipes. You had vegan bloggers about, you know, their lives were so perfect and, you know, and it was the most amazing thing. I wanted to be one. And it was, and then, like, but then you kind of fall into a trap, I felt, like with anything. It can happen with any kind of diet or any lifestyle. It was kind of like you see people in the comments being like, well, that's not vegan enough. And and it was just, and it was this horrible thing. And I feel like that's, like you said, the negativity that come with it. I think if you take anything to the extreme and you're going to pick apart, I think what I found about veganism and being plant-based is I've always accepted that that's someone doing the best they can. Even if you're only plant-based 5 days a week or 4 days a week, you're still trying. And for me, I could never wrong anyone for trying, but I felt like on that YouTube, especially on Instagram, that was that real mentality of like, you're not vegan enough for us. And like, it was like a cancel culture. And it was just, that for me, it was just like, oh, like, can I do anything right, you know? But
that online space, though, I think that online space is just like a breeding ground, and I think it's a lot of people projecting their own negativities about themselves as well. If you had any advice for somebody like looking to change maybe to a vegan diet, what would you recommend?
I would say start slowly. There's no rush. If you go vegan tomorrow out from being like fully meat and dairy, I don't think that's going to make a difference because you're more likely to just crave a burger 2 months down the line. I would say just slowly start cutting things out that you feel comfortable with, whether it is, for me, when I first went vegan, I went kind of cold turkey, and I feel like for me that wasn't the most sensible thing because I used to, honestly, not everyone feels, but I used to dream about burgers. And I'm not even that keen of burgers. When I first went vegan, and I remember waking up and feeling guilty. I remember like waking up and just being like, oh my God, I ate a burger. No, I didn't. Oh wait, okay. It was just like, it was ridiculous. So for me, I would say like really things just easy to swap out is your milk. Stop having normal dairy milk in your tea, your coffee. Swap it for oat milk. You know, don't have cheese, and just slowly build up. Even if it's a couple of days a week, and I feel like your body will react to it. I know for me, when I cut out dairy, my skin just improved so much. It's not like a hidden secret that dairy is not good for really anyone's skin. It can bring on acne and stuff like that. It's one of the things that doctors advise if you have acne to cut out dairy. So you're just cutting that out, and slowly but slowly, if it takes you a year to maybe be fully plant-based or fully vegan, that's fine. I feel like if you do it slowly and you're doing it for the right reasons as well, do your research in health. I feel like with animals and in the environment, if that matters to you, you know, that can really help. But just knowing health-wise what's important, I think, is sometimes the most important.
So are you of the mindset that we'd be in like a much healthier world if we were all vegans?
Yeah,
I am of that mindset.
Yeah, same.
I think 100%, and I sort of mirror what Phoebe was saying about just taking it slowly. I mean, my vegan journey was literally, today I eat meat, tomorrow I don't. But I would start by introducing things like juices, you know, like doing sort of 80% vegetables, 20% fruits, and just try to do it on that level as well, because it's also important to cleanse when you're changing into any diet as well. So, yeah.
And what if, like, in terms of moving away from veganism for one moment, what kind of foods do you think that people can just eat to improve their mood?
I would say contributing things like your white rice for brown, or your brown rice for quinoa, things like that. You're going to find that it releases energy a lot slower, and the level of protein that you get is sort of, I mean, I think per 100 grams it's maybe like, I think starting at maybe 14 grams of protein just from quinoa. Hemp is like maybe 50% protein.
That's huge.
I think it's either 50 or 60
like
for 100 grams.
Yeah, sitting around surrounded by hemp.
But you know, you have hemp milk. You can have, you know, you can make a smoothie bowl. You can make porridge. Add a little teaspoon of hemp. Things like that. You know, these are the things that are going to really boost the way that you feel. You know, but again, as Phoebe said, just go slowly.
Yeah, I love a saying. They always say, like, because I comfort eat as well. Like, I really sometimes, as soon as I know, like, my mood's going, I'm just like, give me sugar. But I try to tell myself when I feel like that, I always will ask myself, what would I feed myself if I loved myself?
Wow.
And I would always try and remind myself, because then that helps me from restricting too much, because sometimes I can fall into that, or maybe overeating. But if I ask myself, what would I do if I loved myself? You know, yeah, okay, maybe a chocolate bar is gonna feel good, but at the same time, like, I could just swap that out for like some almonds and maybe a little bit of dark chocolate, but not really go into it, and because I want to nourish myself and because I love myself, that kind of thing, and that helps, I find.
Okay, so I'm not going through like a full transition, but I am doing it for Lent. I've done it last year as well. So yeah, I'm doing it for this period of time, and for me, it's more like of a discovery, just to kind of see what the hype is all about.
Hype is
Way of living.
Sorry, yeah. So, but for me, I don't think I've noticed any differences, any positive differences or negative. I think one of the negatives for me is I lose a lot of weight on a vegan diet. So that's a negative for me. But on a positive, I haven't noticed anything that would make me feel like, do you know what? Let me give up jerk chicken or something like that. Well, so far, it's only been a couple of weeks.
Get out.
No, I think Lent started maybe a couple of weeks ago, something like that.
So that's significant. So we should be feeling
but I don't feel any different. But I don't feel any worse.
Are you eating enough? Are you eating enough?
Yeah.
Are
I
you
mean,
eating
I use
enough
MyFitnessPal, so I track it and all that. But what I do find is that on a vegan diet, my carbohydrates are through the roof, and my protein is not what I would normally have.
Right, okay.
So for me, it's something that I will do. I will cycle. I might do it, and I would probably do it as a more of a detox, just kind of, because I know meat kind of stands around, so I'll kind of do it as a detox, kind of stop eating meat for a little while. But I can never see myself doing it as a full-on lifestyle change. Like, I love jerk chicken.
My
jerk cabbage.
My sister and I ran a half.
Would you say jerk cabbage?
There's replacements.
Okay, you get out. My sister and I ran a half marathon like 3 weeks ago, and she became vegan about 7 months ago. And she said that running the half marathon, she felt that she had so much energy during her training, and it was I think it's her first half since having her son. So obviously her body's probably changed quite a bit. Yeah. I love hearing these really inspirational stories about how much strength and power, like athletes, but also like runners and like fitness people in fitness are getting through like that, having that nutrition. But I'm also finding I haven't been vegan, but I've been training for the marathon, and I've been every single day having a beetroot, 125 millilitres every day of beetroot juice, because it's really good for your recovery. And I found that just having that one little thing every day has, like I say, increased my recovery, but also given me such a good energy boost. So I think also you can, even if you're not doing huge radical changes like Lentanuary, or, you can just do one or two small changes and see how those things affect you and how they work for you.
I don't know. I'm not convinced. I mean, I eat generally quite balanced and very healthy anyway, so I feel like there's the margins are very small. Yeah. So I was speaking to someone, I can't remember, a friend of mine, and they were saying, because you eat quite healthily, the margins are so small that you're going to see a significant change. So you might not see it. It's only if I was like a competing athlete, then that change might make me knock off a little millisecond or things like that. But for someone who's like used to eating pizzas every day, if they then go into vegan, obviously they can see these huge changes. But someone who's healthy and just eats quite balanced and does eat meat, they might not see the huge differences that others will see. So for them, it's just like, well, why? I enjoy eating chicken, I enjoy eating lamb, I enjoy eating these things. So, why would I make that change?
They have this thing where it's like your metabolic age, and they did a lot of research recently that was based on, even though like I'm 24, it could be that my age is like 32 if I'm maybe not living like the best lifestyle, bad diet and stuff.
Don't listen to them. That's not true. Living my greatest life.
Thank you. But what they said is for what they believe is the most beneficial diet, and again, obviously everyone will say their diet's the better diet, but they say that a kind of a Mediterranean diet with no dairy apparently is one of the ones that they believe is one of the highest, will like benefit your rate,
and what
your
is
age.
a Mediterranean diet?
Mediterranean diet is lots of olive oils, lots of vegetables, lots of grains, like whole grains as well. And they say, obviously, dairy just is not beneficial to anyone, they really believe. And it's just really interesting to see that, though. But obviously, with that Mediterranean, they will have fish once in a while, and they will have meat, but very sparingly. But I feel like that does help to show that there is some research out there proving.
I mean, there's a lot on Netflix, a lot
Game
of
Changers.
Game Changers. Yeah, I did watch that one.
Interesting.
I did watch that one. I mean, the one that interests me was about the stamina in the bedroom. Actually, it's quite funny. They've done it. Yeah, they've done a test about
Taking a turn.
the guys were. They actually measured the guys. They measured the guys' erections throughout the night, and apparently they had more as vegans.
Oh, really?
Some of the guys were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna try that."
Wow.
But,
I'm going to start putting that on my Tinder. Only vegan, plant-based only.
But yeah, no, things like game changers
like that.
and What the Health have like done a lot to kind of shift a lot of people's mindsets. Yeah. But like some people say that it's kind of scaring people into eating that way. Like, you know, seeing things like what it does to you, how much fat is in your blood and all that kind of thing. It does, it is quite scary for someone to watch. So I don't know how helpful those programs are.
I don't think it's empowering that we have choice now. I feel like we have so much choice and we have information. I think if we look back to like our parents' generation, it was just like eat something from a can. And, you know, there was really not so much information, but we have like all these social media platforms, all of these, just so much information, documentaries, you know, from every different angle. The only thing that I worry about is what's credible, what can we trust, and what's just, like you say, like scaremongering. You know, there's so many of those documentaries that actually people debunk them all the time, and they're like, oh, that's not true, this many cows didn't die. Almonds are the problem, you know, almond farms or something. So that's the only thing, but I feel really empowered when I know that I have all these choices. So I'm like, I can take this information, I can do my research, and then I can like go into my local supermarket and there's a vegan option, there's a gluten-free option, there's a this option. I think it's nice to know that we have more of that.
Do you find that you'd spend more money though, like trying to be organic, trying to be plant-based, vegan, all of that?
I think organic, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, but I think if you want good quality food, you have to spend money. We just don't live in London. We just don't have the food available from really high-quality sources that is cheap. If we lived in countries where you could just take it off the tree, you know, then it would be different. But I think you have to spend money. But I do you think you can like live well for less?
Yeah, definitely. I find when it comes to looking at the prices of meat, I know that if I eat just like vegan and I find it's much cheaper. I know that my partner, he eats meat, and I know that when I do a shop for myself, I'm like able to go spend some money elsewhere afterwards. If I do the shopping with him and it's like packets of chicken, nothing against it at all, but like packets of that costs loads. I find like a healthy, again with vegan, plant-based, you can have the unhealthy vegan stuff, which is the processed stuff, which adds the price. But if you are like really just being healthy, beans, rice, vegetables, pastas, those kind of things, they're not pricey. And I feel like nuts and things like that, like lentils, that's not pricey. I feel like you could definitely eat a good kind of balanced plant-based diet for a good price as well.
And there are loads of helpful. Exactly.
And that's like an annual salary.
Exactly.
Just figs.
Yeah, literally. That's where I shop for a lot of things, like my porridge. So I'll have like a gluten-free porridge of like 4 different grains, and just, you know, anything like my chickpeas, etc.
Sorry, how much that porridge cost?
So the porridge is £3 something. Yeah, £3 something. And one of the things I have, so what I actually had to see a nutritionist at one stage, because it is true, you know, you can sort of feel a bit lacking in things every now and again. So I wanted to just understand more of what I could do to balance my blood sugar when I gave up sugar. And one of the main things was having more protein. Sorry, I've forgotten what I was actually going to say.
When we talk about whole foods.
That's it. Yeah.
Even thinking about whole foods is too much.
Money. Yeah, so So I actually was seeing a nutritionist at one stage just to look at how to best manage the fact that I'd given up all this sugar now. So one of the things I was told...
Did you see your accountant as well?
Yeah. Well, you know, I had to take a second job, I had to go back to work, no more entrepreneurship, So one of the things she sort of said to me was you have to have more protein. So I buy a lot of hummus. Okay. So my hummus, I buy it from Whole Foods, and that's like £2 odd just for one tub, whereas when I was going to Sainsbury's it was like £1, you know, non-organic. But you know, it's good to always have snacks on the go. But yeah, you do have to kind of budget for that. So meal prepping is amazing. She taught me about meal prepping, and that's something that would sort of help you to save money. But there are loads of useful resources on YouTube. You've got people like Rachel Amma. You kind of take you through what vegan meals you can eat for like, I swear it's like £1. I don't know where she got this food. I don't know where, if it was like, you know, from the trash can or something, but somehow you can manage to eat really healthy on a budget. But, you know, you actually can. You know, if you buy a bag of pasta, you only need to cook 1 cup of it, you know, some tomatoes or whatever. It's not going to cost you too much to just kind of be nourished.
Yeah.
And taking it back to like you trying it, and I think for me, when anyone's trying a vegan plant-based diet, I always think like just see how you feel, and that's the main kind of thing. I feel like being plant-based has really opened up like my, I don't know, like diet. I just take more care in what I'm putting into my body. I think it's just so important. Like I had quite an unhealthy relationship when I was younger with food. And I feel like that was made worse by like magazines. I feel like you said about there being more information out there. When I was younger, I just remember the only information that I got about like diets and food was like in like Heat magazine, in in Glamour magazine, and Special K, 2 bowls of cereal, and like, and you can lose some. And it's not even like a normal bowl.
What was it called? The Special K. There was a special name for it, wasn't there? It was like. 2 bowls in 2 weeks or something.
It was a challenge.
It was and it wasn't even like a normal like bowl of cereal that I would like. It was like a handful, literally, with skimmed milk.
Starve yourself, and that was the thing. And I remember, so I used to have this exercise video at home, and it was like from the 80s. And I remember watching it when I was maybe 12 or 13, and it literally said this woman, and she's in spandex, and she's going, "Now, ladies, the thing is, you might get hungry, but if you get hungry, just brush your teeth."
I remember.
And I watched that when I was 12, and I was like, so I did. When I got hungry, I'd go and brush my teeth. I'm brushing my teeth like 20 times a day. I've got a bit less enamel now. That's about it. But I really want to say as well, like, the cost of eating healthy, of course, I think some things are in London where we are going to cost a little bit more. But what's going to cost more in the long run to your health is being off work sick, having to buy ibuprofen, paracetamols, all of these things. Yeah. If you actually look at that as a whole in your lifetime, that investing a little bit more into maybe something that's organic, or, you know, people say, well, I haven't got the money, but they'll go out drinking, or they'll go and buy a pair of shoes they didn't need. And, you know, your health, once it's gone, it's kind of gone. You know, it's not for good, but it's very hard to get back. It's very hard to claw back. So maintaining that health, even if it does cost an extra £10 a week, probably you can find that. Just have one less Starbucks, or, you know,
100%,
something. 100%. I mean, I know not everybody, I just want to be mindful, not everybody is in a position where they can go and buy organic. But, you know, I think that there is probably a lot more available that people, they just automatically think that's not for me, I don't have the money. But I think if people really look and research, they can find ways to do it.
Well, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed having this conversation.
Where can we find you? Where can we find you?
At Phoebe Aurelia on everything. On Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere.
And what was can you do your double-barreled name again?
Okay, so my full name is Phoebe Aurelia, is like first and middle name, and it's Herschdorfer, and then Torquay. My mum is Dutch and my dad's Tunisian, and it's a little mix of everything.
So that's at Phoebe Aurelia, Dutch Dorfy, Torquay.
So close, cool. So close.
We'll write that one down.
No one will ever forget it now.
So Phoebe Aurelia,
the girl with the weird name.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on Love Vegan UK.
Yes, amazing. I'm going to check that out. Do you know what? I think I'm going to get back into veganism a little bit.
You should.
Why not? I'm going to see if it helps me with my marathon.
Yeah, 100%.
And after Lent...
Have you learned nothing?
Erin's going to be having nightmares about squirrels.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a great conversation.
And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Yeah.